This week on RSBANDB Update, RuneScape gets a surprise skill update with bench sitting. After warming our benches, we discuss the history of RuneScape's April Fool's updates, from player-owned farm Jmods to Sailing and The Rock. We then discuss new revelations on the Fort Forinthry season. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 980, recorded Thursday, April 4th, 2024. Warming benches. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, Tanis is out this week as he had a family medical emergency, so Thaxi is here filling in at such short notice, so thank you for that.
Hey, yeah, happy to be back.
Been a while since we've heard from you, but you've been on most of the monthly bits this year, so that's kind of where the listeners
I have, and I've been, to be fair, I've been on largely a break from the game just for school stuff. I had my last day of on-campus stuff today. I've got another 10 or so days in the hospital in the next month, and then I'm done, so...
Nice.
It's wrapping up.
But
so
also joining us this week is a new person around the community. I'd like to introduce to the podcast listeners Luminos, a member of Clan Quest, been playing RuneScape for many years. I'm not going to say the exact number. We agreed to that. We agreed to that in pre-show that we wouldn't say the exact number. But you've been around a long time. You enjoy quests and presumably other things as well. So just tell the listeners a bit about yourself and where you're at with your RuneScape journey.
Yeah, Shane, appreciate you bringing me on. And yeah, I'll say how long it's been. We're about 19 years. I've been on my current account since 2007, so a little bit shorter on this account. But yeah, a little bit of an old head. And been playing for a long time with not many breaks. And in saying that, you'd think I'd be better at the game after this long, but like many of us, that's not quite the case with RuneScape. But yeah, no, I am maxed. I'm going for the Master Quest Cape right now.
Nice.
Which I would have been close. I know. I was going for all of the requirements, and I'm one of those people, like, one of the requirements I think is 116 Slayer. I was like, well, I'm 3/4 of the way to 120. I may as well just do 120. So I got all my requirements out the way. Yeah, got 120 Slayer last month. And then the bloody necromancy requirement.
Yeah, I was going to just ask you about that right now with the Owl quest. Many people didn't see that coming, that such a little quest would add 120 necromancy to the Master Quest Cape.
Yeah, so I actually, about 2 hours ago, got 107 necromancy. So we're getting there slowly.
Yeah, it's a fun journey I found with necromancy, I think. So
yeah, no, it's been fun. I'm training invention at the same time as well. Working towards 120 invention, so doubling down.
Yeah, Master Quest Cape's always a good thing to chase, and of course you're in the right clan for that as well. And you know, we just wanted to have I figured, you know, this week's going to be a bit of an interesting week when it comes to content in game, given the fact we just passed April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. Full show notes can be found at update.show. We also have the Discord over at update.show/Discord, and we do have a friends chat as well, which is BitsBytes. But I would be remiss if I didn't offer a big, huge thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members for whom make RSBANDB Update possible. And this week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, and the Naked Captain. You'll be hearing a little bit more about the Patreon offerings a little bit later in the podcast, in particular what's coming for the next monthly bit. It's going to be a very fun one that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So we're going to have some fun with that, and that'll probably be right up Luminos's alley. But April 1st, anybody run into any fun jokes this year? That's the pin dropping.
I know.
Not personally. I had some friends do some fun things. A guy who works who runs IT for a little company out in Seattle changed all of the copiers company-wide, so that when you logged in, it was a picture of a clip art of a beaver, in a suit, saying like, it was some like he just had this. It was like a little pun. It was funny, but he changed them all so that when like people logged in, they just saw this funny thing.
I feel like we lost.
I thought that was inventive.
I feel like we lost the bulk of April Fools with the pandemic and whatnot, and it's been slow to come back. I think, in terms of people joking around. Luminous, did you see anything, or are we just going to be confined to RS for this going forward?
No, I do have one. It wasn't me personally, but my girlfriend knows someone. I'm forgetting who now, but this person, a friend of hers, she sent to her boyfriend a fake email from what would have been this guy's apartment complex.
Oh, God.
Basically saying, a couple of tenants have reached out. You guys are being too loud, and we are rescinding your rent renewal offer. And basically sent the poor guy into a tizzy until he failed the joke. Yeah.
That one might be a little bit too real.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a little cruel, but I think he got over it quickly. I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, logging into a website and seeing your picture on the front face of it, which we did many moons ago for the RSBANDB moderator team when this podcast was first getting going. But, of course, April Fool's has always been an interesting holiday for RuneScape in that Jagex, for most of their years of existence, have actually done an April Fool's Day joke, believe it or not, which in looking back at this, I was trying to figure out if there was any, years that they missed. But looking at this, they really only missed 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And then every other year, they've had something. So they have a big one this year. I feel like the one they have this year is one of the biggest offerings that they've had for this. Maybe I'm a little bit biased in this because I like the cape that it awarded me. But how do you guys feel about bench sitting?
I mean, I think it's fun. I like that they made a whole cape for it.
Yes, they did. They did.
Did the whole thing. And Tiffy being the one to give it to you is fantastic. I also like that the cape is animated so that when you're sitting on a bench, it actually goes behind you. Every other cape, you sit on your cape.
Oh, that is so good.
You're able to display it.
I never noticed that.
When you see Tiffy's wearing it, and Tiffy, it's out of the bench behind him. It's like thrown over the back of the bench.
Okay, I'm not seeing that with mine. So that's probably just Tiffy's that does that.
It might just be Tiffy. That's kind of a bummer. That would be a really fun feature to have. Like, maybe that's extra engine work to put that in. Or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
But the skill starts really slow. Once every couple ticks or so, you get 1 XP, and then after you hit level 2, you start getting 55,000 or 65,000 XP per tick, and then if anything, the skill is actually a really good representation of just how exponential the XP curve is in game for people who are unaware from this, and that you can literally sit in the bench and go away and do something, and you still won't be 99 when you come back for it, even getting the XP drops of 65,000 per shot. So that also was really
I also really enjoyed how I logged on right after April Fools. It just dropped. And very RuneScape community. People weren't telling each other like, "Oh, this is how you do the skill." Like telling people that there were going to be 65k drops. I was one of them. I sat down and I was getting 1 XP per tick, and I was like, "How the heck are you guys 99?" And people were like, "Just get good. Oh, you'll learn it." Like no one was giving it away. And I was guilty of the same in the clan chat. I forgot who it was, but you were asking, why is it so slow? How'd you guys level up so quick? And I was like, 60 to 70 is a bit of a slog. Just some good methods at level 80. Just, and I thought it was fun that everyone was kind of going along with it.
Yeah. Also, the dialogue you get when you click on the skill icon is fun, too. Ooh, a new skill. How do I train it? Oh, the guy just says, sit on a bench. There must be more to it, clearly. And then your character goes through the pages of the bench sitting guide, and it says benches can be found in Falador Park, the city of Fort Forinthry, and across Kandarin. At level 99, it states that you will receive the bench sitting skill cape from Sir Tiffy in Falador Park, and it also lists explicit instructions on how to gain experience, which is sit on a bench, relax, take in the scenery, and that's it.
And that's it. 11.5 minutes for a 99. It's not bad.
Oh, I didn't
Not
actually
bad. Good
time it.
design.
Is that how long it is?
Yeah, about 11.5 minutes. Yep.
Okay, that's.
Talk about easy scape. Wow.
Yep.
I mean, it's if we're counting that, it's shorter than Invention took on when that was broken.
Yeah.
I just had to.
I think that just means bench sitting is bugged. They should probably fix that before the next update.
Yes, and on that, bench sitting will be going away on April 8th. So for anybody listening to this on the weekend, you still do have time to go grab your bench sitting cape and pick that up, which I'm glad that I got. Everybody knows I'm a fan of green, so I really appreciated having the extra source of green trim on that.
Clean looking cape.
Yeah. They did a really good job with the cape. Like I said, am I biased, or is this a really nice skill cape?
It is, and I kind of hope that they keep it around too, because it doesn't Does it have any stats?
No,
Actually,
it does
I
not.
didn't look.
It does not, but it gives you access to your perks as all capes do.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
So I would imagine they'd keep it around because if you look at the destroy options, it says you can reclaim it from Diango or via the bank interface. So I'd imagine it is staying around.
I am disappointed it doesn't have an emote. I was really hoping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I get why not. Engine work, all that stuff. This is just quick fun.
And from what we know about capes, creating skill cape variants, I think now is something that they can do fairly easily, i.e. the inverted skill capes from Fresh Start. So I think the cape was the easy thing, and I'd imagine that animating emotes is a lot more difficult on that. So
that's fair. I will say though, Shane, with your love of green, I've been wearing it around with my Necromancy power armor and then the Vorkath overrides on the Death Guard, and it all just the whole green look just explodes. So nice.
I've actually been contemplating soul dyeing the first Necromancer's gear.
Ooh,
yeah,
but haven't made that decision yet. That's something you kind of want to think on a little bit more than just pulling the trigger on that. They also mentioned in the news post, and we got the iconic image in the news post of Mod Osborne from one of the archaeology teasers where him and Timbo were talking about benches.
Just in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
Well, that's the archaeology, because they're talking about workbenches, right?
Yeah, the archaeology workbenches that were at each dig site. And that became a
recycled content, but it really works.
Yeah, and everybody loves Mod Osborne. You open up the news post, you don't anticipate you're going to see him. Obviously, he left the company a few years ago at this point, but that was nice to see. And I'll also take this note to mention that March 30th was 4 years since Archaeology came out.
Really?
It does not feel that long, or it feels longer. It feels like it's been longer.
Yeah, it certainly does, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, the whole archaeology coming out at the start of the end of the world with COVID.
Right.
And probably adds on to that, but 4 years. And
I feel a little, with that they, hit the perfect time for that. So that's
for sure.
That's okay on that front. But I also want us to have a bit of a talk here about past April Fool's Day events in terms of which ones, if any, do you guys remember the most out of all the years jumping out at you?
I mean, I love all of the ones that they've done with the giant cabbage. I don't remember what year the cabbage boss was.
Was
that 2020?
It's 2020, yeah, where you
Yeah,
turned
the
into
Cabbage
chef.
Slayer. I think that was
Yeah, there it
2020.
is. And the Ring of Cabbage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
But 2009, I think, is probably my pick for favorite because I remember, like, some of the things that they did was like this was the start of so many things that they have used as running jokes since.
Yeah.
oh,
Like
is this when
2009,
Brassica Prime became a thing?
it was the first. Yeah, Brassica Prime was an Easter egg within the April Fool's Day update because it was the cabbages in the Cabbage Patch, and you could kick them around as a ball. And if you kicked a cabbage from the Lumbridge Cabbage Patch to Ooglog, you would get a cabbage and a message from Brassica Prime. And it spiraled from there. This was where it started.
I mean, I even did a podcast once with Clan Quest founder Draz about Brassica Prime on this. So
yeah, there's a deep lore there.
Deep lore there on that.
Oh, if I'm looking back, I think Brassica Prime even went back to 2007 April Fool's joke. It was just a behind-the-scenes post, and I feel like this was when they really started leaning into everything. Cabbage releases.
They actually
like
put it in
Melville's
game, I guess I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, like behind the scenes has good cabbage ritual quests and where you fight Brassica Prime, and there was cabbage armor and a cabbage rune. I feel like that was the first time they really started leaning into
And the
cabbages.
whole reason that started, the cabbage stuff started, is because Andrew hated cabbage, Andrew Gower.
Yuck.
Cabbage rolls are wonderful, by the way.
So there's that. The other thing that happened in the 2009 was a joke. This was not like an in-game thing, but it was a joke from Mod Emily about being able to catch seagulls using the hunter skill with a butterfly net. And I feel like one of the years they actually did implement being able to catch seagulls with bird snares. Am I crazy? I feel like that was a thing one of the years. I just don't. My brain is losing me because the problem with these is that so many of these past April events have only literally just been 24 hours. They like put something in that's for fun, and then like unlike a lot of our events that run for a couple of weeks, it's just like you are either there on the day or you aren't.
No, you are right. So, on the Seagull wiki page, it says on April 1st, 2009, Mod Emily said that seagulls have now been added to the hunter skill and can be found across some coastlines, and you can wave your butterfly net in a gullible fashion to catch these birds.
In a gullible fashion. I'm pretty sure that I thought they actually implemented it one year, though. I just don't remember what year it was, but I thought there was one year where like it wasn't.
Well, based on this, it sounds like it was in for 2009 because it says a week later Jagex removed them from the hunter skill.
Okay, yeah. So it was a whole week. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So there's that one. But another thing that always came up to me in this is the meme that has transformed into real life is 2014 and sailing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The birthplace of... See, I think it says something about the game, too, that we're like, a lot of the stuff that they did release as a complete April Fool's joke, it's kind of real. But hold on, what if it was real?
Right, and of course we're talking about old schools. The first old school is going to be getting is of course sailing.
It's the Jagex humor, the RuneScape humor. April 1st is it's an excellent way to celebrate that, and people just do not let it go.
Am I crazy in thinking that bench sitting was also mentioned this year at some point? Or am I going?
Maybe, but bank standing, bench sitting and bank standing are the right? Like it's they're
the memes.
It's the thing. That's the memes.
Yeah.
And but they've already made the bank standing skill. We've already got 99 in that. Thank you very much, non-canon behind the scenes. So bench sitting was the one that was left.
And the fun thing about sailing, specifically from our universe and RS3, is that it never happened, but they actually did, as part of 2014, put it on the high score page temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And for folks who might be unaware, we run a high score tracker here at RSBANDB, and because of how things were set up, we had it set up so that whenever something new appears on the high score page, it would automatically start grabbing data for that. So when it did appear there, we got a series of ones imported for sailing on that day that we had to clean up. So that's just a fun little fact on that. And of course, we also did, I think probably in 2020, or maybe it might have been 2021, for the April Patreon monthly bid, we of course designed the sailing skill.
I'm not wrong in saying, isn't Ingagawa Quest Day also includes as a very dumbed down version of the sailing skill? That
They did. They loaded you up with an inner tube boat and had you shoot cannonballs. Yep.
Yeah.
It was
I forgot
backstanding,
about that.
scaling, and sailing and riding. But it was a bunch of little mini pirate ships that you had to shoot. Yep.
And you were just walking around, like it was just
correct.
around the port.
It's like the Terror Bird mount. It was one of those kind of things, except it was a boat instead of a Terror Bird. Yeah.
Hey, I'm still rocking my Terror Bird right now. Don't got the Terror Bird mount.
Yeah, that actually became one of the overrides that people actually enjoy. Believe it or not, the Terror Bird override, even though it was that probably would have been 2009, I think, since summoning probably 2008. Given summoning,
wasn't it? It was originally Terror Bird Racing. I thought it was originally one of the beach things, right? Or maybe they turned it into one of the beach things later.
Yeah, I think that was the order on that.
Again, they start something on an April Fool's Day joke, and they're like, "Hold on, but wait, what if? Hear me out here, guys."
Speaking of what
it
if,
should just be in the game.
Speaking of what if, they could have reran this year, given the community sentiment. In 2019, they let players put the Jmods in their player-owned farm pens.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I'm just saying that because everybody loved hunting down their favorite Jmod and throwing them in the pen, and I remember, I think it was probably in Discord or somewhere in the community, the next logical thing that came up from somebody at that point. Well, can you put Jmods in a breeding pen, and then what happens with that? And of course, the answer to that was no.
No.
So
simply,
you guys shiny mod, and it's just mod more.
Oh, that would be the good shiny Jmod.
Oh yeah.
Who else are we thinking for shiny Jmods if that would have been a thing? Jack?
Osborne? If we were doing it today, I'd have to do
whoever designed the.
Yeah. So.
I mean, Raven.
Raven, definitely.
POF was always his baby.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You'd get like a Potterington Raven. You'd get it.
Oh God. and see, that's the thing. All these events, they do have a basis in reality, and I feel like that's why this year's the bench sitting went one step above, is because they took it that step forward, and you actually got the bench sitting cape out of it. Which, it's not a skill cape that's going to have stats on it, but it's still a skill cape for, maybe people who don't have skill capes yet. So, I take that away from it. 2013 was Cook's Assistant, the musical.
Mm-hmm. Solid.
Can't say I remember too much about this one.
No, and I only remember this one when pulling it up through the wiki, but it was through a behind the scenes video that was framed as that the next quest of it was that they were just going to, do a musical, but in reality it was shown that, it's actually going to be a musical live action, which is something I think a lot of people who play RuneScape in this day and age would, probably still watch and go to, which I think the closest thing was the Giggle Factory live show that we talked about last year on that. But
yeah,
I mean, they've done a number of like live videos and stuff. Like, wasn't there a sailing video? Or I know they sang sea shanty. There's a bunch of things
that was for player owned ports.
Yeah,
that was for player owned ports.
That's right. Like, they've done a few things like that where they've done musical renditions or something, and they could that's
an instant classic.
As a short, they could do it. Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And
not quite the same, but I always enjoy the good 15-year documentary as well. if I'm feeling, need a little pick-me-up, get a nice warm, fuzzy feel. So I always enjoy that documentary, just
Yeah,
again, seeing a little bit behind the
we
curtain.
talked about that at the time on the show, and I even got the second co-host of Update back on to talk about that, because there was so much in there that was touched on about, the early days that we kind of, just needed to go back and reminisce on. And I feel like this was at the height of Jagex, doubting themselves after EOC. And then, of course, the trajectory after that was up. And then, on the topic of anniversaries, there's the 20th anniversary book, which I don't know if either of you guys have.
No, I do once.
Yeah.
I didn't end up picking one up.
Yeah, those are very nice books. And I always say the thing that is always is bittersweet about that book is at the very end of that book they talk about the next chapter and highlight the Avatar rework.
Right. How does that look in retrospect?
But
in hindsight,
it would have been nice, but we know all the technical snafus that they would have ran into with that. But anyways, we're off April Fools here. Any other April Fools years stand out to you guys that you want to bring up in relation to, or just on their own compared to bench sitting?
Yeah, there's the one I mentioned in pre-show, the Jag Motion we had a good laugh about. And if anyone hasn't seen Jag Motion, quick Google, and yeah,
2012, I think, right?
Yeah, 2012. So yeah, I mean, I was a big 16, and even 16-year-old Sean was hooked at the idea of Jag Motion. And yeah, looking back at that video is just, I was like, how did I ever fall for this? And I'm pretty sure I showed it to my parents. I was like, Mom, Dad, look how cool this is. And they were probably like, what an idiot. Like, no way he
What day is it, son? That year was also the pea hat.
The green pea hat.
The pea hat, yeah, you could get a green pea hat for your player, a literal pea, it's strapped to your head. Oh, that's right. Good stuff.
Yeah, big fan of that. And the other one that I always enjoy is the Wet and Wildy theme park from 2010.
Oh.
Yeah, that was one of those where thankfully I didn't believe that one, but just the concept of like the theme park, it looked fun. I would have gone.
That was 2010, and they put out like a whole spread on this one too.
Yeah.
Which you would only, normally see if you...
A whole map of the park,
like,
and
had
logo
this
and everything.
fun sort of thing printed out. I think the interesting part is now, given how far game engines have come, somebody could probably, recreate this in Unreal or something and provide a VR experience that was Jagex's Wet and Wildy, the RuneScape theme park. So, but...
Well,
yeah.
One day we can dream.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. April Fool's, always a fun day of the year to kind of just, sit back and look back on. And the reason we did this is because I don't think we've ever talked about these April Fool's Day events in the past, because they've always been one-day things. So we kind of, just let it move on past the show. And I don't think it's actually ever made its way into the podcast itself. So I wanted to do that this year and highlight some of those past April Fool's Day events. And, for people listening to this on the weekend, if you haven't already got it, go and get your bench sitting cape. And I think the last thing I'll mention, and I don't know if I got to this at the top of the segment or not, but if you want to go and claim any of the other past April Fool's Day events, you can now go buy them at Diango while this event is active, which is a new thing they added this year. So if you missed the rock from last year or the cabbage ring, what have you, you can just go pick all those up for a modest price of 500 GP each. So.
Lovely.
A steal, a bargain.
Honestly, good. I think they should do more to release the past event items. We talked about this at Christmas. I think it's just good for the game, for the fun and cosmetic stuff like that to just be available. I don't think there's a reason. Some of the truly old stuff I get being,
like bunny ears or the scythe.
Yeah. Because they also look kind of jank, and that adds to it as well because, of course, RuneScape.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think most of the things, especially the stuff that's been released in the last like 10 or 15 years, I think is entirely fair game
Yeah.
to just chuck on the store or these like event hubs, those kind of things. Like,
and they
I'm
have
happy
the
to see
precedent
it.
to do it because Christmas and Easter did that as well. So April Fools is doing it too.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
right
yep,
on.
Yep.
All right. I want to thank some Patreon supporters. Then we'll talk about the collection of patch notes for this week. So this week I'd like to thank Alaska, Alvaro L, Amos Reed, Anatoly D, Andrew C, Arvid Zell, Chulbura, Daniel W, Dominic R, Drama Free, Duramax, Free Milk, G Hammy, Guy LaFleur, Jacob G, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jeebus, Jesse W, Jim M, Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Nate the Great, Pernasius, Ren Hawk, Ricky A, Rippeth, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Targayen, Tealy, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Tom V, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to everybody on this list. You make RSBANB Update go forward, and we appreciate your support. Head on over to patreon.com/RSBANB if you want to know what these guys have signed up for. And it starts for as little as $1 a month, which gives you access to an entire catalog of bonus shows, or monthly bits, as we call them. And these are shows where we discuss one topic per month very deeply. And this month, we're going to be doing the Quest tier list. And this is something that's going to be very interesting to do because, we have a history with tier lists. You guys like those? We had 22 people vote on this poll. This is probably our most voted monthly bit poll ever. So thank you to everybody who voted on this one. It means a lot to us. We also, of course, have specials in the past on holiday events, on Legacy Combat, on looking into lore, specifically around the Elder God Wars when that was happening, and so many other things. So you're guaranteed to find a topic that you like. So you get all that, plus a mention on the show notes for as little as $1 a month. If you want to give a little bit more for $3 a month, you get a special VIP rank on Discord, which includes chat channel access and the rank, as well as a mention on the podcast at the start of the month. For $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. And this also gets you access to the RSBANB Update Christmas card every year. And of course, as I mentioned, big, huge thank you to our experienced tier members. These people receive the platinum shout out, effectively make RSBANB Update go forward. They get to come experience pre-show. They get to talk about RuneScape or anything they really want with us as we do that. And of course, they also get special mail outs a few times a year. But patreon.com/RSBANB. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Patch notes this week. Slim selection. A few things on Easter, but the biggest things on Easter are that the spring picnic spring picnic skirts and outfit has reduced clipping on both variants. So if that's an outfit that you're wearing, I know the clipping on that was kind of bad when we started out with that. That's been fixed this week. But I think the biggest thing to come out of patch notes this week was that stat debuff icons on the buff bar can now be toggled on or off through the settings interface.
More toggles.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the toggles. Cool. More customization.
Well,
yeah,
It's good. People who've been
this-
playing the game for a long time and make use of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the default state for this should be on, which is what it is. I know there's some people who would say maybe off, but I think definitely on for this. And then, as you say, as you get more involved in this, you can definitely customize your buff and debuff bars how you want them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it never hurts to have it on the screen, able to see. But yeah, I especially feel like, especially for me, and now I'm done with Slayer, the most combat I'm doing, it's either AFKing, armored zombies, or my monthly trolls with the troll invasion. And, if the troll of the plague coughs on you and you get the stat debuff, like it can definitely get a little bit chaotic above the ability bar, and I guess that's definitely partly on me. I'm sure I could go deep into the settings and move everything about, but I feel like when I'm looking at my screen setup and when I'm moving about all of my different action bars and this and that, it looks fine, like the placement of my buffs and debuffs and everything else, but once it actually happens, it just becomes a bit of a mess on my screen, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like that's the issue that we've had since RS3, began with the interfaces we have, is that that became a distinct possibility and a way of life for many people who play the game. And there, has been no real nice and, easy way to clean that up. And it's got better over time with enhancements to the buff bar, enhancements to the toggle around this. So that's why I view this as one of the bigger patch notes this week, because it kind of leans into that space. So they added super necromancy potions to the Mazcab emergency merchants. They say it took the Gobies a while to get them, and we can stop asking for this now.
Yep. Really nice for Ironman.
Yeah.
In particular, that's
that's the use case for that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the people who used it before was like if you wanted to go do Dragon Slayer on an Ironman with 40 attack or whatever.
Go unlock Mazcab.
And you were getting absolutely beat up by Elvarg. Yeah, you could go to Mazcab and just get your superset, and go and have potions for Elvarg. Or, those kind of things. It's the Ironmen too. People who don't have Ironmen who don't have high level Herbler, because it is such a pain to train. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. So access to necromancy potions, cool.
Max is now level 152 as intended, rather than being stuck at 138.
Good.
That's good pacing for him, about 8 months or so.
Yeah, no, it's pretty standard. That's fair. I can't fault him for it.
He's burnt out after all those years. Even Max needs a break sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he doesn't have his. I don't actually remember if they did it for necromancy, but in the past they took off. He doesn't wear his max cape for this grace period after his skill releases.
Yeah,
the 6 weeks or 6 months.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah. That happened with necromancy,
okay.
I believe.
I thought so.
Yeah. They updated the background audio for the Varrock Sewers, the Edgefield Dungeon, and the Polnidniach Slayer Dungeon. Which is just interesting that this has just popped in here this week. And my gut feeling on this is that this didn't make it in when they did the graphical updates on these dungeons. And just in relation to everything else that we've been talking about in the past, is that these are the tiny kind of updates that, we look for in the patch notes, and we see, oh, wow, even something like the Varrock Sewers and Edgefield Dungeon is still getting updated, which I know there's lots of people out there who say, well, they're the early game experience and mid-game experience needs a lot of work, but I think as we all... Luminos, did you do Fresh Start? I was going to say as we all did Fresh Start, but I don't know if you did Fresh Start.
No, I didn't do Fresh Start.
Okay.
I'm one of those people. I have a Iron Man I sometimes play, but I just enjoy focusing on my main.
Okay, fair enough. Because everybody who did Fresh Start was, just wowed at the early and mid game experience that was provided for it. So it's just nice to see updates coming on that regard still. But that's it for the patch notes this week.
Yeah.
So I just want to do a bit of a pivot here and talk about some of the stuff that is in relation to last year's Fort Forinthry season and quest line. And I'm going to start this off by citing a post on X that Mod Stu made, where he wrote, I think there's a disconnect there that we got a lot more quests last year than usual due to the developers of Fort projects going a step beyond and also doing a mini quest on top of their goal, the goal of their project. And he says, for example, new foundations on top of the fort, unwelcome guests on top of the Slayer extension, Battle of Forinthry on top of Orcath. They were all short quests, but they also happened because developers were passionately going above and beyond. The only fort quests that were budgeted from the beginning were to be the quests Murder on the Border, Dead and Buried, and Ancient Awakening. And he said that even then, the need to shift the season focus to necromancy meant some retrospect undesired cliffhangers. And that passage, I honestly think explains a lot. Because that was one of my key criticisms of the Fort Forinthry quest line, was that it felt like all these quests were teeny tiny and they were afterthoughts. Where if you look at Murder on the Border, Dead and Buried, and Battle of Forinthry, all those, or sorry, if you look at Murder on the Border, Ancient Awakening, those were all the quests that were in effect designed to be quests, whereas everything else was just the gravy on the top that the developers put there. And when you highlight all this, I think what we saw in Fort Forinthry just makes so much more sense, and kind of also what we're seeing now makes some sense as well. So, Luminous, what's your take on what Mods 2 had to say here today on this?
Yeah, I think the big thing that stands out to that he says in this thread of tweets as well is the whole idea of doing away with the concept of mini quests, and maybe it was a bad idea to label some of these as quests. And yeah, again, like you said, Murder on the Border was great and Ancient Awakening, but when it comes to, I think it was Dead and Buried, or Unwelcome Guest, one of those where it just felt like a chance to, I know it's being spoken about on here, of get a little bit of content alongside instead of just popping into the fort and building a building.
Yeah, I feel that was Unwelcome Guests, I think, because that was just the Slayer creatures there.
Which, I mean, it's fine. I just labeling it as a quest. When, you look back at quests of old, and even things like, Troll Romancing, Haunted Mine, or Mountain Doors. But I don't know, there was a storyline, there was a point, and it just kind of felt like it was filler to add on top of the content, which is fine. I wasn't a big fan of it being labelled as a quest in a quest update. But again, it seems like Mods 2 now acknowledges that and realizing maybe they should think of another way to go about this, whether it's calling them mini quests or ditching the idea of mini quests. But that was a big thing that stood out to me from this thread.
Yeah, definitely on the mini quests and whatnot. And I think the thing that makes me hopeful with this going forward is that this came out of a discussion on the fact that they were just recording the dev diary for Requiem for a Dragon, which, I mean, based off of that, we know obviously that's the continuation, or I guess maybe conclusion of the Vorkath stuff. So the sense I'm getting based on what he said and what the other devs on Requiem for a Dragon have said is that it's a more traditional quest. In particular, Stu said there's going to be more requirements, positive friction, since we're deeper into a storyline, and in playtests it took 20 to 60 minutes to complete, and there's post-quest content as well associated with it. So we didn't have that with many of these other ones. Thaxi, initial thoughts?
I mean, I see what they're saying, right? Where, like, when Necromancy released, it did kind of feel like, okay, we've got this whole fort storyline. Oh, hey, Necromancy's here now, and they just kind of like they did a hard left a little bit from the story they'd been telling to kind of
to tell the Raziel arc and whatnot, yeah.
Right, and then to jump back into like, okay, now Vorkath is attacking the fort. Right, like they kind of just did it felt like Necromancy, like there was this big long storyline and season that was happening. Necromancy just kind of got like added onto it, and they were very related, right? Like that's the thing, is that they clearly tied into each other really nicely and all that stuff. But it was like, if Necromancy had been as a skill based around the fort instead of based around the city of it might make a little more sense. Or if we'd put a lot of the city of type things, or a lot of the fort type things into the city of like that would make the city of this really cool like,
Skilling hub.
skilling hub
Yeah.
rather than just the necromancy hub that you go to for
Right.
rituals.
And
Um,
the theory around this time last year, whenever Unwelcome Guest came out, is that necromancy was going to happen inside that little closet where Zemerigal was in there, and then there was going to be something in there that was going to open
behind
up,
the door.
behind the door.
Yep.
But of course, that was
Just ruins.
That was the map on Gale, and later Vorkath stuff there. So that's what we were thinking.
All good.
About.
I love those quests, and if you play back through all of that quest, like it's a really nice storyline. Like it's a solid, like you'd get in other MMOs. It's an
It's
expansion or like every
Okay.
once in a while, like when you get larger updates for their games, you get like effectively usually what it comes down to is a day or a day and a half of like really like long days of gameplay worth of story, and that's probably what we got with the whole Fort Forinthry season. And then of course Necromancy had honestly a similar kind of thing, but just kind of pigeonholed in there, which again felt a little odd because it was such a huge update.
Right.
But like good, like it's all good content is the thing.
Exactly.
So like I'm not mad about it.
No,
it's just,
it just felt like a different way of delivering
is,
it.
Yeah, I get what Stu is saying on this one though.
Yeah.
In terms of like maybe it didn't meet the mark, but like at the same time we're giving you cool content, and it is cool content. Like playing back through those quests, like it's a good variety of quest styles and content, but it all themes very well, and the reward structure for like the fort upgrades is all really good. Like
if I'm telling somebody, who hasn't been playing RS since before EOC and they want to come back, I'm telling them two things. I'm telling them play through the Fort Forinthry season and use that to train your skills, and use necromancy as your combat style. And you pair those two things together, you have a really interesting and I think compelling new user experience on there, which we didn't have, a year ago at this point.
Right.
Ultimately, too, and like you said, Shane, it's that new player experience. And unless I'm wrong, but I can't think of a true low player hub where you've got so many concentrated skills. Because now you've basically got the Force, and you use a Menaphos and Prithvis eventually, and you've kind of got those steps. And like for us, where I know you guys did Fresh Start and have other accounts, and I enjoyed building up the Force, and I didn't get the most juice out of it, but it was still an interesting storyline. I might have liked to have seen it being done in bigger bulks as opposed to just like a little nibble every couple of weeks. But yeah, like you said, Shane, it has at the end of the day, I don't want to say shoehorned in necromancy, but necromancy's maybe involved where it wasn't originally planned to be. But now you've got a great place for new levels to go, follow a 6-age RuneScape storyline.
From the ground floor, too, because you never used to be
Yeah.
able to do that. Even the Elder God Wars was hard to get into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
like,
like,
this
I
is
mean, like
literally
if you look at the quest requirements for, Slisk's endgame, like you had to have like 300 quest points to start that thing. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, it's absolutely the fact that it's just a new storyline and it's current and it looks good. It plays well.
I didn't ask Modstu to do this week, and I think the person who asked about this upcoming quest in reply to this post had a different idea in mind than I did. But the thing I took from this is that I just felt so much better about that last season or two of content, because I and a few others were genuinely thinking that this was going to be the way forward for quests in RuneScape, and that they were going to be mini quests with a quest point on them, or they were going to just be a little bit bigger, 10, 15 minutes long each, and have a bit of story carrying the season forward. But what we've heard with this for Requiem for a Dragon and the requirements and how that one's going to go a bit deeper, that tells me that we're not at a loss for the traditional quests like we used to have, and that makes me feel good, because that was something that I was worried about, and I think that came out on a number of these quest episodes that we did for this. So hearing this just makes me feel so much better on this. I also want to point out that that when the fort itself came out, we got a quest / mini quest with it, new foundations. When the Undead Slayer creatures came out, we got Unwelcome Guests. And with Vorkath, we got Battle of Forinthry. Those were the 3 quests, or mini quests, let's just say, that the devs did on their own that were not initially scoped as part of the project. And I think if you remove New Foundations, Unwelcome Guests, and Battle of Forinthry, and you just look at, the characters around the fort, heading into Murder on the Border, and then Dead and Buried, and then Ancient Awakening, I feel like the Fort storyline would sit and feel entirely differently than it does right now with all those extra quests that these devs put on top of that. So
I agree. I think it really filled out the content well to have the extra like stuff in there.
Right.
For sure.
And this is something that you see and you have to have in the games industry, is that there's just so much passion and drive among game developers, because it's a very competitive thing to get into. It's a very hard discipline to be a part of, and it saps your creative juices as well, because, sometimes you might just be a programmer, but if you're at Jagex, you're also a content designer, and you're going to be on the hook from time to time to write as well. So just seeing that the devs put this in there really shows what a passionate crew you have working on RuneScape here for this. And I don't think a lot of people appreciate that in terms of how much passion goes into the games industry. And the fact that now we're learning that, 3 of these 6 quests here were not on the initial spec sheet. Oh boy, that tells you definitely something about the people who are working on this kind of project. So, and that's what I see as the step beyond here, is that the fort was really just scoped to be that skilling hub with the base construction update that was later retrofitted in to have the good XP rates. Then the kitchen, then the Woodcutter's Grove, which was really the only one of these major fort upgrades that had no quest attached to it, interestingly enough. Then Ranger's Workroom, then Botanist Workbench. And when you look at all these things, these were the initial specs for the fort to build out a skilling hub over the years, and that step beyond is just adding the cherry on top with that. So, do we have a new appreciation for the fort from this? I know there's going to be people who say we shouldn't have a new appreciation because, Jagex is just being lazy or some silly stuff like that.
Go on, Foxy.
No, you send it.
I know I was definitely the one who came into this as well, a little bit more hum-ha. And even just, this last 10, 15 minutes and breaking down this Watch Choose thread a little bit more. It can definitely be a new appreciation. And, but before yesterday, before I really started looking into this and seeing Watch Choose thread, as far as I was aware, it was just, quick, short quests typed on just to make it look like the content was thickened out. But hearing that, like you mentioned, it's a step beyond. I think that's great for the game. It's great for the devs as well. I say this even in my own work environment. And you have your parameters and what you have to wear, but you give someone to, spread the wings, have a little bit of creative freedom, do something that, is a little fun, a little different. It keeps people interested, keeps the content for us fresh, but for the devs, it keeps it exciting and different and fresh. So, if you look at the front end of what we play, the back end of the creation of the forts, I think there's definitely questions or answers. And I think people should be allowed to have a new found respect for the fort.
Yeah. And, I also have to say, in relation to the community egg hunt from this past week, the final egg for that, you remember how there was this ominous looking cave that you couldn't go into that was just off the Woodcutter's Grove? That's actually this week you can actually go in there, and that's where the final community egg is at. So they even use that area for that and put some environment
full circle
inside there. So
nice little cave too. I hope they use it for something else in the future. Nothing big, but it's a nice environment.
I mean, who knows? There's a quest coming out called Requiem for a Dragon. I mean, that cave could be the start of something.
Yeah, I mean, that cave is right under the old man's dig site there. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Also true.
Yeah. Do you want to go where you were going to go, Thaxi, or should I go on to the next bullet point with this?
No, very simply, I was a big fan of the fort as it came out. I've been asking them for a while to do like a chapter level content where they keep with a theme and a location and they release content to kind of like build out a storyline one thing at a time. And I think that they executed on that relatively well, given the resources they were working with. And we got what I was looking for, and I hope we continue to get stories like that. And just learning now that so much of that was dev driven, like we just have the best devs. Like we knew that was the case. Like their community support is so great. The amount of time that I hear people complaining about, Jagex messing up and doing things is like, it's there, but it's not the level I see in other games. And it's just like we have a dev team that really, really cares and does go above and beyond for us. And it's appreciated. It looks good, and it's what I wanted out of the content. So.
Yeah,
I was happy coming out of it and going into it, and so this is just more fuel in the fire that things are going well for what I would like to see.
So something maybe a little bit controversial then. Does this help or hurt the discussions that are happening right now in relation to content cadence and the fact that we're having a small spread of updates? Does this help or hurt that? On the whole,
that's kind of hard because it's this. I feel like we have this kind of cyclical discussion about this, and we're going to continue to have it because it's going to continue to be the discussion the community is having, and so we're going to keep bringing it up and talking about it. But I think the similar kind of thing happened in big content droughts a couple of years ago, especially like in the spring when there was like. There was a pretty light year. I mean, last year we had the Fort Necromancy and that, but like the year before we had a lot of I remember doing that year in review show, and we're kind of picking at threads in terms of looking at updates for the year. A lot of things did come out.
That was the Hetz Oasis year, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, I mean, Hetz Oasis was January, and then we didn't get much until
we had Extinction, Twilight. A Slayer creature update in February.
A Slayer creature. Yep. That was the headliner.
Then we had Zamorak. Then we had Wilderness Flash event.
Things took off a good bit in like the summer when like the Zamorak came out and those kind of things. And but like there was this period of from early January when Hetz Oasis came out until April or March or April where there wasn't a whole lot of big updates. Like we had some Slayer creatures and things. Like there were things coming out. Obviously, there are still updates.
That was another transition period. That was the transition period from Warden to Keeper.
Yes, well, and it's also like that was the time when they were building into finishing out the storyline with Zamorak and kind of closing out that Elder God Wars storyline.
Yeah,
and then like there was the time building into the Fort. And I feel like they can really pad out. Like I think they have an easy time kind of padding out September through the end of the year because there's just so many like events and it's easy to like just give us event stuff, right? And we appreciate that and it's good content. I don't know, I'm not going to be mad, but in terms of like lasting game content, I think this is kind of the time of the year where there's a little bit more of a content drought. And I'm interested to see what they come out with over the summer and what we see on the roadmaps and those kind of things. Because it's, again, I am always willing to give our devs the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, I'm sure they're working on something.
Yeah.
I know that there's not a lot of dev teams working. I know that the size of our dev teams has cut down significantly, right? Like, as far as I'm aware, that's what's happened.
And the interesting thing about this is that we actually have data from the survey we did in January that suggests the split in the community is amongst the people who have completed everything. Those are the ones who are seeing an issue primarily, whereas folks who are working on their existing goals, whether that be, maxing, going for a comp cape, a master quest cape, Luminos, what have you. those are the people who are fine with the situation as it presently is. Right. And that's why I was wondering, does this help or hurt things? Because I feel like the answer to that is just like the answer we had on the trust episode, where it depends. It depends entirely on your perspective with that.
Yeah.
And the best thing to come out of this is just ModStu's openness, which if we can see that sort of thing going up more up the chain, that would be nice. But I know why that it's difficult to do that in terms of making those kind of announcements with that. So
yeah,
but
I just add as well. I think especially for, like you said, people like me, where I've got stuff to work on for God knows how long. But even it's still fun to see that new content come out, and I'll always put time aside to do that new content and interact with the community and see the reaction. But going back to the original question as well, Shane, I'm just how does this help or hurt Jagex going forward? It depends how you look at it. I think it is great. At the end of the day, you've got devs who obviously they've got their game jam projects and they've got all the side projects going on. It's great that you've got developers who are willing to step up and go that extra step and fill out some content when need be, especially when you've got jobs like right now. But it's obviously not something you can rely on. And we've been talking about it for 4 months of a roadmap and what comes next to content. And so again, it's great that you've got people who can fill in those gaps when need be and when we have these jobs, but you don't want it to become something that the company ultimately relies on, because we know that they're busy devs and it's a lot of content.
Yeah, and to just bring the spoilers in from the previous weeks or 2 weeks ago's episode, I can't remember when that was. But the sense we've got based on everything that we put together and everything that we've read between the lines on is that after the things the HP thing from last September, they completely changed how they built content, and that caused a bunch of devs to be moved around at the tail end of last year, and content plans for the start of this year to change, and that's why we're in the situation we're in right now on that. But go back to the Build Back Trust episode if you want to hear the full discussion on that. So.
Yeah, it was last week's, I think. Yeah.
Okay, that was last week. Yeah, all these things here just blend together over time. They really do. They really do. Alrighty, folks. Anything else on ModStu's post, or are we good to do some achievables?
No, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good then. So starting off for achievements this week, we have Iskatu with 99 Necromancy on the 3rd. Lord Zorik got 99 Archaeology on April 1st. And Ada Darkmoor also got 99 Necromancy on the 31st of March.
And then on the 31st, we had Godin with 120 Cooking. On the 31st again, Rippeth with 99 Necromancy, and on the 30th we had Z with 120 Agility. Good for you guys. Strong work. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Always.
I wonder if that agility was boots.
Oh, you do wonder. I feel like at this point it's just why wouldn't you?
It's just the boot skill, isn't it? when you're training.
I mean, yeah. Early levels, maybe not so much, because I think the XP on them does scale somewhat. I don't actually know how that works, or I don't know how OP they are for early levels, but certainly beyond 99 it is, I would say, more efficient to train it with boats.
All right, Luminos.
I often think to myself...
You have a pick for us this week.
Oh, I do, yes. I have... The only other game I play as much as RuneScape, being Football Manager. Being a huge soccer fan as I am, I've been playing this game. Also, I think probably since 2005, I remember playing it on PSP. My parents got it for me for a vacation to Spain, if I remember. Little did they know what they were doing. But yeah, Football Manager. Anyone who loves soccer, if you like soccer, you want to get into soccer, it's definitely a bit more of an in-depth game, but it's essentially you can take over any team you want in the world. You can take over Liverpool, Real Madrid. You can take over your local team in, MLS if you want, or anywhere across the world. And you essentially, you manage everything that goes into being a soccer coach. Transfers, contracts, picking lineups, obviously the game itself. And the big part is, I grew up playing FIFA and Madden, and you play those actual games and you choose who to pass it to and whatnot. This game, the tactics make so much difference. But you give your team tactics and it's a simulation. You kind of, it's out of your hands outside of being a head coach. So that's my pick of the week. It's on Steam. I believe right now it's at the regular full price of $60. I can't do the conversions.
It actually says it's on sale right now for 33% off.
There you go. So I was about to say, but it goes on sale a lot. Steam, summer sale, spring sale, Christmas, whatever else. I don't know why it's on sale right now. But so if you're on 33% off, here's my recommendation for you.
It's interesting to me, these games, I always see these games as being something that would work, that would be the perfect game to run on mobile, but it looks like they're just desktop related on that.
They do have a mobile version.
Oh, okay, they do.
Version,
but is it different than this one?
It's way less in depth.
Okay. So this is kind of then, would you say then, like a full blown simulation?
Yeah. So back in high school, I tried the mobile version. And you can get through a season, like a year, in playing a decent amount, a day or two. Like, it's pretty low key. On the PC version, if you're doing everything like I'm doing, it can take me 3 to 4 weeks to get through a season.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and so my last save, I was in the year. It was Football Manager 2021, and I was in the year 2047. So you can do the math. And but if you're a sports junkie, if you like soccer, definitely recommend.
How many times have you won?
Oh boy, with Liverpool, I'm from Liverpool, hence the accents. I've won the English Premier League a few times, and I've won the Champions League. But right now, it's really cool. Other players can upload like player packs to Steam, or like downloadable packs. So right now, I'm coaching a local team from nearby Liverpool. In real life, going the 12th tier of soccer, and I'm aiming to take them to the very top. So working my way through it. I'm in the 7th tier so far. But it's that kind of game. Like, there's so many possibilities. I've been winning, but I've still got a long way to go.
Nice. All right. Well, link to the Football Manager 2024 can be found in the show notes over at update.show. See, I initially always assumed that these games were like idle clickers. I didn't know, in fact, that they were actually fully blown simulations. So thank you for informing me on that.
Of course. I'm like a Football Manager, but I'm spreading the word. That's what I'm doing.
Aficionado.
Yeah,
that's
aficionado.
A good way of putting it. Very good way of putting it. What have you been up to this week on RS? What have you been doing in your RS time? I know you're going for Master Questscape. You mentioned that at the top of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing over the top right now. So kind of what I mentioned, right now I'm going with that 120 necromancy before I delve into the requirements. And it's literally just, I've got my beaver. I go down to armored zombies. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the armored zombies. It's our safe spots, but only one of them attacks you at a time. But you can still any other enemy AoE damage. So, just slowly working away. As soon as I think I've got 4 more cycles. I've got 10 mil or 120 invention. So 4 more cycles of my armor. and then I'll probably just go back to rituals to finish off 120.
Yeah, and see that's the thing, I think, when it comes to necromancy and combat, is that if you're doing Slayer, if you're doing Invention as you are, I think it makes sense to go somewhere and kill things, whether it be some form of an abyssal creature or armored zombie, like you mentioned. I think that makes sense. But if you're just doing necromancy for XP, I think it's got to be rituals on that. So
yeah, especially if you've got the full blown, I think it's 750% extraction, and you're paying attention to every distraction. If you have double XP as well, or bonus XP, sorry, that is stupid XP. I was a little shocked when I jumped over to Armored Zombies.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did the final, 3 or 4 mil XP in like an hour and a half on double XP, last double XP. So that combined with the bonus XP, it's absolutely insane how fast you can train that. So where do you go after 120 necromancy on the Master Quest journey?
Skill wise, everything. That's everything. I don't have a specific path in mind. It's literally going to be pulling up the wiki, checking off all of the ones I've already done, and then I'll probably start with the easier ones, and then slowly work my way up to anything combat releases. I'm the noob with T90 gear thanks to a third age die from a treasure trail.
Ooh.
So I'm all
take
geared
those.
out. Yeah, but I'm actually not good at the combat itself. So one day we'll get there, but that's the current road plan.
Have you done any of the tedious journal grind ones, like the KBD or the Nodon one?
No, I haven't not.
Okay. And it'll be interesting to see how those go, because I know a lot of people always they either smile or they curse that grind.
Yeah.
Well, it's more satisfying after you've done the 120 grind, because the 120 grind is it takes so long to get to see progress, and at least with the journals you are most likely guaranteed to see some kind of progress every so often.
Also been doing player reports, finally got around to
yep, fair.
Yeah. So I'm currently saving up my Jade and Cherry Wood to get the 4th ship. So
nice.
I've got a ways to go, but we're moving along.
Yeah. Ports, the original RuneScape feature that beckoned for mobile.
Yeah. I mean, I did it on mobile for a long time when I was still doing them daily.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Well, do you guys... Oh, sorry, Shay. I was just going to say, do you guys remember the app? It was an app where you could access your ports from your phone and like a grand exchange. It was,
the RuneScape
companion.
Yeah. That was retired in favor of mobile.
Yeah.
I always liked that because you could buy items from the Grand Exchange. You could log out on your character, buy things from the Grand Exchange in the app, and then log back in and have them. So you didn't actually have to go to the Grand Exchange. I liked it that there was a couple of times when I used that as some nice cheese.
So it would just appear in your inventory or in your bank?
I can't remember if I could get it in my... I feel like maybe I could transfer it directly into my inventory from the Grand Exchange box. But maybe I could bank it, and there was just something in particular that I was using from the bank. I don't actually remember how exactly I used this, but there were a couple of times I'm like, I don't want to leave wherever I am, or if my character's in the rune spin and I'm I've got all of my runes already, so or I've got a bunch of essence, so when the spheres come up, I don't have to leave. Those big long when I don't want to leave where I am, I could still Grand Exchange or reset offers on things, stuff like that.
I wish I would have explored the API of that, because that was, I think, a web app, wasn't it? Or was it an actual app?
I don't actually know any of the coding on it. It was a thing I had on my phone.
Me and you both backseat.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Luminos, from your week, or anything Master Questcape related that's you want to share? Has been
no, just outside of that, just doing my dailies, Easter egg hunts. The regular stuff everyone does, but just necromancy grinding, really.
Alrighty. As for me, I've been also on the form of another continued necromancy grind as well. The hunt continues for the last piece of the Raziel log, which is of course the lantern. I passed 1,100 kills last night.
Oh, you really are schmoving. You've been getting your hours in.
Yeah,
good for you.
Like the last one was at 987, so I mean, at least I have a way of counting now to know when I was last drive from on that. So I'm not going to start complaining for another few hundred kills or so on that. But I'm starting to think. Sure. I'm starting to think maybe I need to spice it up with some other bosses along the way, because maybe doing Raziel end to end probably isn't the best idea. For my PVMing on that,
for your mental health.
Yeah, like maybe some Vorkath might be in order to get to finish off the.
Well, chuck in a Reaper task or two, right? Like do your daily Reaper, get the money from that, something.
Yeah, that, and I should and see, this is the thing I always think of doing, and I always think of going back to raids. But I have 101 kill count with complete log, so part of me just wants to leave that kill count right there and then run around Mazcab with the Liberator title on.
Yeah. You absolute spoon, and I know you haven't been spooned lately, so, I'll hold off on the real judgment here, but...
I used all the luck back when I was doing raids, apparently.
I didn't complete the raids title until 6 times your kill count. So we take those when we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the old school front, I'll just say, for anybody who has an old school character that's capable of doing quests, there is a quest that you must do immediately if you have 15 woodcutting on old school in Varlamore.
Yes.
It is called The Riveting Tale of a Lily Pad Labor Dispute.
Oh, of course, this is the one Shane's gonna.
And that's all. I'm gonna say about it. I'm not gonna spoil it. It's about frogs. Then you read the rest into it.
The Economist for the Politics podcast would like to talk to you about unions, please.
That's in there.
Okay.
That's in there, but there's also a great. But there's also a great amount of comedy in there too.
No. It's a RuneScape classic quest. I know. I'm familiar with the ins and outs of this one.
Sirion nearly fell off his chair when he was doing this quest. That's how much he was laughing.
What was it called, Shane?
The Riveting Tale of a Lily Pad Labor Dispute.
Okay.
Is it riveting or riveting?
Riveting, like frog
riveting.
Rivet.
Yeah. No, they did a good one in terms of classic RuneScape humor.
Okay.
It's listed in the quest list as the Riveting Tale, but the full name is the Riveting Tale of a Lily Pad Labor Dispute. I signed up to do this quest because it gave me an additional hardwood farming patch. I didn't know it was going to be that amusing, but. Anyways,
how are you enjoying, Shane, the new continent?
Oh, Varlamore is wonderful in terms of everything from the skilling, the questing, and dare I say it, even the PVM. I'm not leveled appropriately for the Colosseum, and I don't have the right tactics for the Colosseum. But when it comes to the Perilous Moons, I can do that. And I was actually quite shocked when I was able to do that quest in the small amount of tries that it actually took for that. So,
and this is where we put the plug in for if you want to hear more about the Adventures with Barrows 2.0. There is a second old school podcast if you somehow have missed that thing and are interested in more RSBANB content.
Yeah, specifically
find Shane and Syrian Weekly talking about their old school adventures as they work their way from being noobs to not being noobs.
Yeah, we're north of 200 quest points at this point in time. Or sorry, 100 quest points or something. I don't know where it's at, but
those are different numbers.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely north of 200, I think.
Yeah, I think you are, because you guys were getting caught up with kind of where I was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But update.show/OS or youtube.com/@ you got to include the @ sign on this one, OSRS update. Thaxi, anything in particular you want to share? You mentioned you've been away from the game working on school and real life stuff.
I have. No, good. I got my bench sitting cape on Monday because I was like, oh, what if it's only here for 24 hours? I've not done the Easter event. I'm planning to AFK the ever-living daylights out of it over the weekend. Very much looking forward to that. Just taking some time off and getting a little back into it. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thanks, Luminos, for joining us on this episode. Good to have you.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's something listening to you guys for years, so it's about time I get myself on here.
Yeah, of course. And if anybody else wants to take that step, update.show/help. There's a help wanted form. Just fill out some information like your name, your time zone, how we can best contact you, and what you do in game, and then we'll be in contact to talk about opportunities for that. And for everybody else who has filled that in, we will be doing more of those in the coming weeks and months as time allows on the show. But thanks again for joining us. It's great having you. And I'll say to everybody else out there, if you want to subscribe to the podcast, best way to do that is by visiting update.show/subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Casts, and more, as well as YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Do give the show a like and subscribe there. It greatly helps the channel out. But we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Ciao.
All right.
Happy First Contact Day.